Hello, and welcome to this month's episode of the Great British Mickey Waffle. As we approach spring, we all look forward to longer and brighter evenings, and in the case of Walt Disney World, we start planning for Halloween and Christmas. Joining me tonight to help with our planning to the most magical place on earth are John, Sammy, Peter, Lloyd, Jill, and Becca. So what's on the agenda for tonight? We have a quick news roundup of all the goings on in Disney. We discuss our best and worst character meet and greets throughout all the parks, including that place up the I-4, Universal. As we get to talking to more about our future trips, we reveal the mistakes that we've all made in the past so we can help you in your planning, and of course we have the Mickey mentions. But first, we find a little bit more about Becca as it's her turn for Carousel of Questions.
What's your favourite park?
Magic Kingdom.
Tell me a ride that you hate.
Monster Zinc Laugh Floor.
What's the most overrated snack?
Turkey leg.
What's your favourite transportation mode at Walt Disney World?
The resort boats.
What's your favourite table service restaurant?
Grand Floridian Cafe.
Tell me a resort you haven't stayed at but want to more than anything else on earth.
Beach Club.
What's your favourite car park?
Transportation Ticket Centre. I don't drive, so.
Typhoon Lagoon, Blizzard Beach, or Volcano Bay?
Blizzard Beach.
Galaxy's Edge or Diagon Alley?
Diagon Alley.
Early morning or late night park visit?
Late night park visit.
Keep the magic or backstage detail?
Keep the magic.
What's your favourite other podcast or vlogger about Disney?
Tim Tracker.
And the last one, on-site or off-site?
On site.
Now over to John for a quick update on what's happening in the world of Disney.
Thanks, Ben. This is the news for March 2020. And with the gates of Disney parks in Shanghai and Hong Kong still closed, I'm determined to make this month's news a positive and uplifting part of our show. So I'm going to start at Hollywood Studios, where all of the Toy Story gang are no doubt celebrating another Oscars success for their best animated feature. We've also just seen the final performance of Star Wars: A Galaxy Far, Far Away. This stage show goes dark in anticipation of the eagerly awaited Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway, which is opening on March the 4th. With no preview yet of the interior of the ride, I can't wait to see what Imagineering creativity awaits for us all. Do note that the park hours for the studios are very likely to change for March once it opens, and then with some morning times have already been adjusted. In Magic Kingdom, park hours again have been extended, and nearly every day in March with an extra hour added to the closing time throughout the month, and also into April too. It's well worth just checking your plans for an upcoming trip, as extended park hours offer more fast pass opportunities and new dining reservation times in the park. It also impacts on extra Magic evening hours, so again, just have a look at some of your plans and see what else you can fit in. Just one bit of other news to note if anyone's travelling to the Magic Kingdom in May. As we welcome the return of Splash Mountain in March, so comes the news that Big Thunder Mountain is going to be closed for a refurb from Star Wars Day, which is May the 4th, until May the 21st. Speaking of refurb, let's hop on that monorail and let's go to Epcot, where your hard hat and your high-vis jacket will still ensure that you fit in with the crowd there. Work continues aplenty, but as we wave goodbye to the Festival of the Arts last week, March the 4th brings with it one of the greatest highlights of the Epcot year. Running until June the 1st, the Epcot International Flower and Garden Festival promises to be a magical feast of horticulture, food and music. There is the promise of a Remy topiary, which will form the centrepiece of a new ratatouille garden in the French Pavilion, along with the return of the Goodness Gardens Butterfly House, the outdoor kitchens, and some food treats, and the Eat to the Beat concerts too. Acts already announced for this year include Peebo Bryson, Starship, the Pointer Sisters, Berlin, Don McLean, Air Supply, Survivor, and a flock of seagulls. This is a time of the year when Epcot becomes a cornucopia of colour and certainly offers so many things not to be missed. We, however, don't like to share rumours on this show. However, with Test Track due to open certainly by the time you hear this, do be aware that the final date for Spaceship Earth could follow very soon. Obviously, we'll update on our social media outlets and on the next show too. But if you're going in March, it might just be worth just having a look and having that last final dose of Dame Judi Dench. Finally this month, a quick update from Disneyland Paris, where the phone problems mentioned last month have been resolved, and blueprints have also been unveiled for the Frozen Land expansion project. But unfortunately, that's not scheduled to open until 2023. So there you go. That's all the news updated. And I'm going to leave it to Lloyd to explain why this month Virgin Holidays really do need to sort it out.
Right, thanks, John. Yeah, this month the Sort It Out section is all about Sort It Out Virgin Holidays. Now, if you've listened to the podcast before, you'll know that I'm the only waffler who is yet to visit Disneyland Paris. And this year, based on the advice and all the information given by my fellow wafflers, I thought I'd try it out. But like any time when you go on the internet and do a little bit of surfing, you invariably end up just having a cheeky look at the prices for a little cheeky trip to Walt Disney World. Well, most of us do anyway. And so I just had a little bit of a look after pricing up Disneyland Paris of how much flights would be to Florida for the same time. And it wasn't too far away from the total cost of the Disneyland Paris stay. So I thought, well, I'll look a bit further. I'll start looking at hotels. So long story short, I ended up finding a nice little deal for 10 nights, flying Manchester to Orlando and staying at Port Orleans Riverside. Great, book flights, brilliant. It was about it was about 8 weeks away from flying at that point. So a few days after booking, I think it was 6-7 days, I was checking the My Disney Experience app, because it's always that nice little comfort blanket when your hotel reservation pops up on MDE. You know it's all gone through with Disney's side. Nothing. A few days later, nothing. 10 days later, nothing. So I was not too concerned at that point until that evening, Virgin Holidays gave me my first little call to make contact. It was a missed call, which just said, can you just contact us regarding your hotel booking, please? Which, I don't know, didn't sound like it was going to be too concerning, really, until I called back. Now, first thing that I didn't realize until I called was, if you get a call from the service desk about your booking, if you ring the service desk back, if it rings out for a certain amount of time, it will go into an overflow, which could end up anywhere. So my first call didn't go to a service desk. I ended up at a retail shop of Virgin Holidays. So that person was able to help. I said I had a missed call. I gave them the reference number. They checked and then gave me the news that my booking that I'd paid for couldn't be fulfilled because there was no availability at Port Orleans Riverside for my dates. So I just wanted it solved, really. And when I started asking for what the options were, because I'd gone through to a retail shop, they were nice, but they only had a certain remit of what they could do. And what they could do was sell me another hotel or sell me another deal. So my initial options were from Port Orleans Riverside, pay £200 more and go to All-Star Movies. So that's a moderate to a value. Or pay heck of a lot more and go to Animal Kingdom Lodge, which I wasn't too happy with. I was still nice and polite, but I didn't really like that. So I asked them to elevate it. She said she'd contact someone and then call me back. So a little bit later on, once I got home, I got a call, and this time from the service team. So the first thing I think to know is, if you ever get this problem yourselves, which it sounds like a lot of people have from when I looked on the DIB, is make sure you're talking to the right people to start with. That first call to the retail store, they acted as far as their power would let them. Now, the service desk, when they got in touch with me, they can do a little bit more. The guy, Matt, who was my contact, he was very helpful. wanted to help, but again, they can only work to the boundaries of their power and within their remit. So Matt started looking for any other hotels that would be available in the Disney area on site. All on site was sold out. So started looking for other options, and the only other options were off-site. At this point, by the time he'd called me, Animal Kingdom wasn't available for the 10 days, and neither was All-Star Movies either. So my options at this point were off-site, something around Disney Springs, or I could stay on-site Universal. And that's how the call ended the first night. I had a little bit of a think, had a little bit of a look around, and I managed to find some availability for Disney hotels. So I tried to call back. It was 7:02, so the service desk had called for the night, had closed for the night. And so it was kind of a little bit of a restless night that night, waiting for the service desk to open at 9 a.m. the following morning. So following morning, called back. Matt wasn't in because he'd done the late shift, so I got a different person, had to start my little journey again to try and figure out what they could do for me. And it wasn't really a nice process. It was quite distressing. Again, people were nice. They were helpful. They do their job well, but they can only act within their own remit. They can only act as far as they're allowed to act. So I couldn't get a solution. They couldn't get me on site. I found a possible solution where I could do 9 nights at Animal Kingdom, 1 night somewhere else, or 8 nights Port Orleans, or another Disney hotel, and I'll just figure out the 2 nights maybe Universal. They couldn't really give me what I wanted. It came down to price in the end of what they were willing to go up to not compensate me, but where they were willing to pay on top of what I'd already paid. Matt called me back, my contact, again, really helpful, and we almost got to a little bit of a solution. This was about midday the following day. 2 nights Sapphire Falls, 8 nights Port Orleans Riverside. So my original booking was 10 nights Port Orleans Riverside, but I had to pay £200 difference. So even though I'm off site for the first 2 nights, a hotel that's my second choice, well, not even my second choice, it's a choice, not my first choice, Port Orleans, I'd still have to pay £200. So I've explained all the way along, I'm not after something for free. I don't want something for nothing. I just want the hotel, the holiday, the experience I've booked. And so I wasn't willing to pay the £200. I couldn't bring myself on a principle point to stay in the same hotel for 8 of the nights, another hotel in Universal for 2 of the nights, and pay extra than what I'd already paid. And I did say to Matt, actually, we're so close to getting this solved. I'm happy for 2 nights in Sapphire Falls Universal. I don't mind. I'll deal with that. We'll have 2 nights Universal side, and we'll come to Disney for the following 8. Great. We're at Port Orleans Riverside. It's the original hotel I've booked, and we're so close. We're £200 away from that, but I don't want to pay that as the customer that's already paid out for getting a lesser experience. And unfortunately, nice as he was, and good at his job as he was, as far as his power would go, he couldn't get to that last little bit. So then we entered our last little round of negotiations, should I say. So I looked on the Dib, posted a little sort of thread on the Dib, spoke to my fellow wafflers as well, and their advice was, right, get the ball rolling on the Dib, get some advice there as well, and started to gather a little bit of momentum. One of the bits of advice was, as I think Sammy's done in terms of the Skyliner, get in touch or email someone high up, try and get someone else involved rather than customer service at their level. So I started to craft a little email to the CEO of Virgin Holidays, which seems a little bit blasé going to the top person because it's not going to get read. But if you go to the top person, the CEO, it's going to go to his team. And so it will get filtered down then to the person who might have the power. So before I ended the call with Matt, I was a little bit frustrated that we were so close to resolving this, but Virgin Holidays, multi-million, billion-pound company, weren't willing to just foot this last little £200. So I said, look, Matt, is there any mileage in me sending this email to the CEO? Is there any mileage of me elevating this further? Which he was a little bit resistant to. I then mentioned the Dib. I said, I've got a bit of momentum on there with my thread at the moment. I explained my sort of email to the CEO saying, look, I've paid for a product, I'm not getting it. All I want is the same, but I don't have to pay more for it, even because I've already paid. And my contact Virgin Holidays then, he didn't move on the deal, but he said he'd take it to someone else at that point. He referred to the MD in his department, or the MD of that sort of function of Virgin Holidays was in. So 10 minutes later, he came back. He said, look, I've just spoken to the MD. I'm going to look after this for you. 2 hours later, then came back. Look, we had 8 nights Port Orleans Riverside and 2 Sapphire Falls. We're going to look after you. We can do 9 nights Animal Kingdom Lodge. Initially, though, the first night, because they were giving me Animal Kingdom Lodge, I'd have to find the money for myself and book it myself. And I could book it through them, but it was going to be on my dime, really, that first night. Which, do you know what? Even though people were saying, don't take it, and Sammy was like, don't take it. I don't want something for nothing. I believe in, getting what I paid for, and Animal Kingdom Lodge was a nice little step up. And do you know what? I was happy to just find somewhere for the first night and spend 9 nights at that resort, which would have been a little bit of our price range originally. But then my contact kind of just took a little U-turn again and said, well, do you know what? What are you doing for that first night? I said, well, I'll figure something out. I'm a little bit sort of distressed and tired at this whole process anyway. I'll go and have a think about it. I don't know what I'm going to do. I've got to think about a lot of things. And he just sort of said, do you want me to have a look? I said, yeah, okay. You can have a look. And he said, we talked about Sapphire Falls initially. There's nowhere on site Disney. Would you be interested in Sapphire Falls? I said, I would, but I've just got to think about how much money I've got to spend in the budget. And he said, you know what? We'll cover that for you. We'll get that first night as well. So we've got Sapphire Falls first night, 9 nights Animal Kingdom Lodge, which is a nice result, but I think the whole area of this out Virgin Holidays is I shouldn't have had to go through that whole process to get something that pretty much is what I've paid for in the first place. I didn't ask for an upgrade. I would have been happy with 2 nights Sapphire Falls, 8 nights Port Orleans, which I originally wanted, and it only would have cost Virgin £200 extra from what they were willing to do just to sort me out that. Now they've upgraded me, which is fair enough, fine. I feel a little bit guilty because I didn't pay for Animal Kingdom Lodge. But it was quite an ordeal to get there. And the fact that nice as my contact was, he didn't have the power to do it until I had said, it wasn't even a threat to go to the CEO. It was literally just, look, I've crafted an email to the CEO. Do you think there's mileage in sending it? This is what it says. I'm on a forum, a Disney forum, and there's a lot of people watching what's going on, and that's what got the ball rolling, and that's the shame, really. So what do you all think of my little ordeal?
I can't believe that you book something on the website and they don't have the availability.
What's worse is you're not the only one that it happened to. I saw quite a few posts on various Facebook groups to do with Disney in Orlando that were having to rearrange and change their holidays because Virgin Holiday had cancelled, and it seemed to mostly be Port Orleans.
Yeah.
Cancelled.
System error or something like that they described it to me as, but I don't know how that can happen to that extent, really.
No, I don't understand. You can go on Disney Holidays website and you can see the availability, but you go on Virgin and they say they have the availability, but when you book one and Virgin will happily cancel it.
Yeah.
There's got to be a room available somewhere. I know there's allocations, but it just doesn't seem right that they happily take your money before providing you with the product.
I think one of the key things here, Lloyd, and I think this is where you were really sort of banging your head against the brick wall, and it's the fact that it's happened to so many other people. And I think some of the advice you got on the DIB was really helpful, because I think somebody said that it happened previously to them last year. And how a company that purport to be such a big sort of provider of holidays to Florida can continue to make the same mistake is beyond me. And one of the nicest things, and just looking at your thread, it's had, was it 164 replies, which was really good, but 36,000 views it's had. So if Virgin are actually serious about, wanting to actually be at the top of the game, they've got to understand that there are means out there where people are actually asking for help, not trying to have a go, not trying to make out of it, but simply trying to ensure that what they booked is the holiday that they're actually going on.
Yeah, absolutely true.
I completely agree. Like, I felt so sorry for you. I know how stressed and defeated you were feeling, but I'm just so glad that you kept pushing on my advice and everyone else's advice on the dib and stuff, the upgrade was great, but you didn't ask for the upgrade, so don't feel guilty. You didn't ask for that upgrade.
Yeah, I know.
All you wanted was what you'd booked or the equivalent. And the fact that they were trying to get you to pay £200 extra was just, I think it was insulting. Honestly, like, I've never been one to fly with Virgin anyway, just because I think they're way too expensive. But your experience has just made me even more not want to fly with them. And like John said, 36,000, was it 36,000 views?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a lot of people seeing that bad experience that you had, and it has happened before. It's happened. I remember people saying it happened last year as well. But yeah, they just overbook. It's not a system error. They just overbook. And then by the time they're like, oh, we don't have any left. Oh, let's just cancel everyone's holidays.
Yeah,
and
it's crazy though. 8 to 10 weeks out, and they're still overbooking. Because this was my holidays next is March. It's pretty much now. A couple of weeks.
I think they get an estimation from Disney of how many rooms are available, and they probably do a 10% over, just because people might cancel and things might change. And when they get the actual numbers from Disney, that's when it all goes wrong, and they're just not quick enough to react.
Problem is, 8 weeks out, most people have paid for their holidays by then. They should know their availability.
Yeah. We all booked with Virgin Holidays before, because I know we've booked a few times with them.
Yeah, we have.
Luckily, we've not had any issue.
And we haven't had any issues either.
But it's one of those things.
A big thing about this as well is, if I'd have been someone a little less, not necessarily savvy or just without the context for that information, that first call when it didn't get me back to the service desk and I ended up in a retail store fielding that call, if I didn't know any better, just to save my holiday, I might have paid that extra to stay in a lower hotel. And bless her, the girl she sounded a bit distressed as well, because it might be her first time dealing with something like that. But yeah, just not knowing where your call's ending up and who's dealing with it, you can end up spending a lot more or do without. It's all about getting to the right person, which I ultimately did, but it took me a lot of steps to get there.
Yeah, I totally agree. But I think yours is a good example of, if something like this happens to any of us or any of our listeners, like, do not give in. It might be a pain in the butt, but keep going and don't settle.
Yeah, definitely. And do you know what? Credit to the Virgin Holidays service team who dealt with me. Each person I dealt with did as much as they could within their power, and they did it well. And so the business model in terms of the overbooking is the bad thing. The employees of Virgin Holidays who were dealt with were good, and Matt, who dealt with, was very good. And it just took him. He had to go to one more person to get the okay to actually look after me as he wanted to. Really, he was really trying to help me from the start, but his hands were tied, and he had to go this last step, which took him 3 hours to get the okay to help me out. So credit to them.
That has to do with your attitude towards it as well, because a lot of people in your position would be really, really angry, and I think the way that you handled it, like, very calm, very, like, straightforward.
Yeah, I think that's a great call, that, Sammy.
Yeah, exactly. You're not wanting extras, you're not wanting compensation.
No.
All you want is something of equivalent for the money that you paid.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
That's how you get people to want to help you.
Do you know what? Even at the very last point of it, this guy, Matt, was, because I was staying in different hotels and it wasn't Disney and I couldn't get Magical Express, he was trying to sort transfers for me. And I'm happy. I want to book a car because we're going to be at Universal the first morning. I'm going to hire a car and we'll go to the outlet malls if it's safe to do so. And do a little shop the first morning. And he was still trying to help me. I said, look, I don't want anything for nothing. I was probably going to hire a car anyway, so I'm happy to do that. So it was nice once the green light was there. They'll do everything they can, but getting that green light was the really tough thing.
I don't think you need to feel guilty about getting a higher hotel.
No.
You went to a lot of trouble, and yes, you want to try to get what you want, but if Virgin are not doing a good job, then it is up to them to make sure that they keep you as a customer.
Yeah.
And the customer is the most important person in the business. And lots of people booking holidays forget that without you booking that holiday, they're going to lose that money.
Yeah, definitely.
Or
And I chose Virgin Holidays over some other providers at that point as well, because I wasn't aware of the debacle last year with the overbooking. And so this year, I just had their reputation. I fly Virgin Atlantic most times I go to Florida, and I like it. I like the ethos behind it. And I wasn't aware of this kind of bad customer experience before. So I chose them above others. So to get this experience was a little bit of a kick, really. Not too bad an ending, but it was just the process I had to go through. And Virgin Holidays have now had 36,000 people looking at that process, which, there's a lot of lost customers there, or maybe some people think by the way it ended up, they've retained some customers. I don't know. But one thing they need to do is sort out this overbooking issue. If it's happening all the time, and Florida for some people is a holiday of a lifetime, once in a lifetime holiday, and for that to be thrown in is just, it's awful.
I think also a lot of people booking wouldn't have had the knowledge that you've got of what the different resorts are like, and what's equivalent and what isn't.
Yeah.
They'd just be going by what they were told. So, yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Over, like, you have to pay more for a lesser hotel.
Yeah, well, that was because that was the whole thing about, I think, because of the customer service experience they want to have, they want that phone call answered within a certain number of rings. So rather than waiting for the service desk, I ended up in just a Virgin Holidays store, which they've just got the power to sell. They haven't got the power to compensate, which the service team have. But I didn't know I was there. I didn't know where I'd ended up. I was just dealing with what they were giving me at the time. So yeah, it's a minefield if it happens to you. And hopefully the thread on the dib or this little segment can help a few people if it happens to them.
Yep.
I'm really glad that you managed to get your holiday sorted, Lloyd. And if anyone's in a similar position, just make sure you speak to Virgin's customer service and persist with it until you get to the right outcome. In the next segment, we reveal some stuff behind the scenes, so if you have some younger listeners, we recommend that you skip ahead to preserve the magic. A part of our planning for all our trips is to work out which characters we'd like to meet. We've all dreamt of how amazing it is to meet characters we've known from our childhood, but sometimes it doesn't quite go to plan. Let's hear from the rest of the team about their best and worst character meets. Who wants to go first?
I'll go first. I'll go first with my best. My best one was about this time of year, actually, 5 years ago. We went to Disneyland Paris, and we went for the St. David's Day Festival. Oh, by the way, Dydd Dewi Sant Hapus to all our Welsh listeners, because it will be St. David's Day when you're listening to this. We went to DLP, and we were there for the Welsh Festival, but we were also celebrating Peter's birthday, and we were celebrating our 20th wedding anniversary, and we queued up to meet Mickey. Now, I think Peter might have had a gentle word with a friend of Mickey's, because when we went in to meet Mickey, he suddenly went down on one knee.
Mickey did, not me.
Now, he'd already done that 20 years ago. But yeah, Mickey suddenly went down on one knee. I thought, I hope Minnie's not around. She's going to be furious. So Mickey went down on one knee, and he took out this little box, and inside was a beautiful pendant. It was the shape of a treble clef and a bass clef made into a heart. And it was a 20th anniversary present from Peter via Mickey. And I thought it was absolutely lovely. I was stunned to see this sort of thing happening. The CMs and the photographer who were with us were really thrilled, and it was just a lovely moment.
Oh, that's sweet.
Yeah. I can be
That's lovely, that, Jill.
Yeah. And my worst, I don't really have a worst one. I think the worst one was kind of our fault, really. It was when we went to WDW the second time, back in 2014, and we decided completely on a whim to go to Tusker House for breakfast, which was great, and we had a lovely breakfast, but we hadn't left ourselves enough time before we had to leave to get our fast pass, and so we only managed to meet Donald. And really, that wasn't the fault of the characters. It was just our fault that we really hadn't left ourselves enough time to have that meal and meet all the characters.
I'll go next if you like. Okay, my best. I'm kind of tossing up two best, but I'll go with this. As you know, my name is Peter, and so one time in Disneyland Paris, we meant to meet Spider-Man. So we got this conversation going with Spider-Man about Spider-Man knows somebody called Peter, doesn't he? and this kept going back and forth for a while. Then we had the photo, and then as we were leaving, Spider-Man said, "I'll tell Peter about you when I see him." It was really, really, really good interaction. My worst interaction was also at Disneyland Paris. Way back in time, they had random meets where people just stood around and you went to meet them. And I was going to meet Esmeralda. That's how far back it was. I just couldn't get to meet Esmeralda because all the mums were pushing their kids right in front of my feet, and I was nearly treading on some poor little kids. So eventually I got to meet her, but it was actually really a bit scary trying not to stand on these kids. So that's mine.
How many kids did you trip over? or rugby barge like Boris Johnson-esque?
I was a nice grown up. I didn't do anything.
I had to kick them out the way, and I'll go next. So my favourite meet and greet was also with Spider-Man, but not at Disneyland Paris. It was at Universal Studios, Islands of Adventure, and yeah, everyone here at the Waffle, and I don't know if I've mentioned it on the podcast before, I probably have, but I kind of like Spider-Man. I like Spider-Man, so especially Tom Holland, but that's another story for another day. But yeah, no, the meet and greet with Spider-Man was really fun. He is very lively, and you can have like a lot of good chat with him. And he said he would come and visit me in Glasgow, so I'm looking forward to seeing you at some point, Mr. Spider-Man. But it was hard to pick because I do also love meeting Stitch and Ariel, but I think it had to be Spider-Man. And my worst meet and greet was actually at Disneyland Paris. We were at a character breakfast. It was Plaza Gardens, thank you. And we were there for my friend's birthday. It was my friend's 30th birthday. Shout out to Stacey. I don't know if she listens to this, but hi, Stacey. And we were super, super excited to meet the gang, and everyone was great. And Mickey was the last one we had to meet, and we were waiting for him, and he came over. And it's very hard to describe the motion he made through a podcast, but it was a motion that is very universally known as let's hurry up, get this going, take the pictures, move along. With his hands, with his Mickey hands, he made a hurry up gesture, and I was not happy. I was not happy, and neither was the birthday girl. So, and our pictures were blurry because we felt so awkward and stuff that this Mr. Mickey Mouse was in a rush. So we went to City Halls and complained about it. But eventually we got fast passes to meet Mickey at Town Square. But it was just a horrible experience overall.
That's awful. That's absolutely disgusting.
Imagine waiting to meet Mickey Mouse, and then he's like, hurry up. Do you know what I mean? Making motions to let's get this done and so I can move on. We were 4 adults, but still, we're still paying the same as everyone else.
Doesn't matter. It's a shame you didn't get it on film, because that person would be sacked straight away if it got through to the people who made decisions.
Yeah.
It's just awful. The cast member at City Hall was basically oh, what do you want me to do about it? Did not care at all.
That is not typical of Disneyland Paris, I have to say. It's certainly my experience.
If anything, the meets are really, really long and really slow.
Yeah. When we last time we went to Cafe Mickey got shoved past us by some kids who were pushing him about, which wasn't great. But he made sure that he came back to us to see us and spent some good time with us. So that is awful, but I don't think it's the norm.
No, I wouldn't imagine it is, and I wouldn't say that it is. but it's just a really, and I mean, Stacey was wearing her birthday button and everything. Like,
Oh, that's not good.
Shame. Yeah.
no, just a bad cast member.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I will agree with you about Spider-Man at Universal, though. He is brilliant.
Awesome, and I was like shaking so much, and I was so nervous, and I was wearing a Spider-Man t-shirt, like, and stuff, and I was like, I wore this for you, like a pure.
He's really good with the kids as well,
Mm-hmm.
especially the younger ones. There's a little boy in front of us.
If you think they're starting a family with him, Sammy.
Yeah, just in case.
Good with the adults as well.
Right, so I'll go next then. I've talked about my worst before, and it was Chewie at Hollywood Studios. And I think Ben and Sammy have had a similar experience that we talked about in a previous episode. And it was just, it should work so well. The costume, just like the movie, spot on. And just the cast member, whether they weren't prepped enough or what, it just didn't feel like Chewie. As soon as I walked in there, it felt like a tall person in a suit. From the start, was shaking my hand, which seemed really out of character for Chewbacca to do, to the way it was kind of orchestrated all the way through to take the photos and things. It just didn't feel good. And I left there thinking it was one of my most anticipated meets I think I've ever done since the first time I went when I was 10 or 11. And it was it was the most disappointing, unfortunately. But I've talked about that before. My other worst one was when I met Ariel in her grotto, this beautiful woman in the purple bikini. And it was the worst, basically, just because I got told off when we came out, just because I was making chit chat that was supposedly flirting. So that's my other worst meet and greet. My best meet and greet, Ariel, beautiful woman in a purple bikini. Yeah. It doesn't take much to sort of tick the boxes for best meet and greet for me. Or my other one, though, my favourite one was over at Universal Studios, and it was Doc Brown. Looked really good, acted really good, voice was spot on, really good interaction, asked me loads of questions, and then we posed in the sort of Back to the Future movie poster pose, holding our watches right in front of the DeLorean. So as a Back to the Future fan, it was just, it was a really, really good experience, a really good meet and greet, and an amazing photo. So that's my best meet and greet, Doc Brown, Universal Studios.
That sounds good. That's a really good one.
Yeah, he was really cool. He's you see him around the park as well. He'll move around. He doesn't just stand there. But this was in particular right by the DeLorean, so it was great just to meet him and talking a little bit about the DeLorean 1.21 gigawatts. We were both sort of shouting here and there. It was a really good meet and greet.
And obviously the Chewbacca one, like, I totally understand. Very underwhelming when I met Chewbacca.
Saying that, I want to add something to the Chewie one. In Galaxy's Edge, it's a much better interaction when he's roaming around.
Right.
The things that he gets up to, sort of, it just makes a lot of difference. And I'm wondering whether having a meet and greet like that is much more suited than you going into a room with Chewie, and it just doesn't seem right with him shaking your hand. It's not what Chewie would do.
I agree with that, Ben, completely. And I think roaming around, if the cast member's quite savvy, they can pick what interaction will look best or work best. A kid's doing this, or there's someone going on. Yeah, they can really pick and choose and make it the best experience rather than just a forced interaction with whoever's the next person to walk through that door. I'll shake the hand and then we'll face the camera and then we'll face the camera again and then we'll shake hands and that's it.
Do you think there's a difference as well if you meet characters as an adult without children with you? Because I have this theory, quite often if we're meeting characters, just as they get to us, the character will go on a break. And I have this theory that they would rather disappoint adults than children. I have this theory that they know that adults will understand.
I think adults are more
Or
likely
young
to
child,
wait
yeah.
for a meet and greet, where a child's less likely.
Yeah.
But I have seen them stop like families with kids before. I have seen.
Yeah.
Seen both. But I don't think characters treat adults differently. Like in meet and greets, I've never felt like they're treating me differently to they would treat a child, or they're treating me differently because I'm an adult. I've never personally felt that.
I think there are some where it does feel like they are rushing you through.
Mm-hmm.
I think maybe that might be more with a character meal, where they know there's quite a lot that tables they've got to get through and get to, where they just go, oh, I've had a photo done, I'm just going to move on to the next one.
I meant in the opposite way, really, in that it was a chance for them to do something different other than shake a hand, quick hug, here's your photo. It was actually something that a lot of characters really relished, the chance to do something a bit different. We met Sorcerer Mickey, and I told him that I couldn't do housework because when I was a child, I saw his film and I'm scared of brooms. And he loved that. And we met Thor when we were on the Disney Magic on the cruise ship, and told him we came from London. He said, oh, yes, I've been to London. I said, I know, Greenwich is still being rebuilt. He absolutely loved that. So, yeah. I think it's nice sometimes to do something that's a bit different.
I asked Ariel if she preferred having flipper or legs, which she probably doesn't get asked by kids, or she may do. I don't know.
What was her answer?
I can't remember now. I was very aware of the glare burning into the back of my neck at the time. So I just turn, smile for camera, leave, exit stage right.
I'll go next. Our best meet and greet is definitely the talking Mickey at Magic Kingdom. Now, it's just the most incredible use of technology, and certainly as both of my boys have been growing up, it's been such a fantastic thing to just experience and being different every time. And we're just really sad it's not there anymore. It seems such a shame that having put so much time and effort into syncing the Magic Band technology along with the things that Mickey was able to say to you, that it's been allowed to go. And I don't know whether it's possibly the technology sort of is better, it's just too intense for them to actually cope with within the meet and greet situation or not. But I'm sad to see it go, but it was a fantastic meet and greet. And the worst one isn't really any specific character, but I really do have an issue with some of the face characters that don't look like any of the characters that they're actually trying to portray. It's not all of them, because I must admit with Mary Poppins and Pocahontas, Tink, Alice, and even some of the Anna and Elsas that we've met over the years, they've all been fantastic. But it's the ones where you think someone's just having a fancy dress day whilst posing as a Gaston or Peter Pan or a princess that doesn't quite look like a princess. And they're the ones that really annoy me. And I think it's just not right. It's just one of those horrible things, and even the kids come out of it and they just look at you as if, what was that?
I have to agree. I don't think Peter Pan at meet and greet looks very good.
He looks too old.
John, are you sure you just haven't been walking up to just normal people on a Halloween on a not so scary Halloween party?
Yeah. When it's done well and the character's believable, I think it's the most fantastic thing, and the kids get a buzz out of it too because they actually buy into it. However, there are some times, not very often, but there are some times where certainly some certain characters are very, very badly done.
I think also it's partly that some characters are not portrayed in the best way physically. Acted in the best way, because you can get by not looking quite like them if you really have the character down.
Yeah.
And I think that's also a problem sometimes.
I think that's where some of the successful ones, Peter, and sometimes you come across a Mary Poppins and they're absolutely superb. The accents there, the poise in which they actually hold themselves and portray the character is so completely like Mary Poppins. And so you feel absorbed into the film, and it's a wonderful experience. And then you come across other characters and they look as if they've just, like Lloyd said, just appeared in a fancy dress parade. And I don't know. It's one of them strange ones. But yeah, that's certainly my worst one.
I did like the fact that Talking Mickey, the first thing he said to you was, "You came!"
Yeah.
Like he was anticipating you.
Yeah. It's just amazing. It really was.
It just felt such a personal experience.
Yeah.
My turn. You've all heard my best and favourite meet and greet before, Sorcerer Mickey. We've met him twice before, both times was absolutely fabulous. Even though it was 4 years difference between we saw them the first time and the second time, the quality hadn't gone down at all. And it was just an amazing meet and greet both times. Very in character, just made us laugh. Worst meet and greet, probably BB-8 actually, over at Hollywood Studios. It's very much go in, get your picture taken, not much interaction, and then leave. It would be nice if maybe they put in with Ray or Finn or Poe, just so you can kind of get a bit of, oh, this is what BB-8 is saying when he's doing his beeps.
BB-8 is adorable.
He's adorable, yeah, he's lovely, but the interaction and the meet and greet was a bit underwhelming.
I had a really good time when I met BB-8. But like, I agree with what you say though. It would be good if he was there with a face character. But like, I still had a really good time meeting him, and the cast member that was looking after him was translating and stuff like that. I really enjoyed my BB-8 meet, but I guess it's just that everyone's different opinions.
I think a meet and greet with Poe and BB-8 would be awesome.
Yeah, no, I would.
Really, just imagine like if they actually had BB-8 rolling around Galaxy's Edge with Poe, that would be brilliant.
Aren't C-3PO and R2-D2 supposed to be
I think they're going around Disneyland.
coming around
So
somewhere
should
at
they?
some point?
That's the original plan. Because I think when Galaxy's Edge first sort of was planned, and when they announced it at D23 2015, I think it was, that in a lot of the concept art was BB-8, R2-D2, C-3PO roaming the lands. Maybe
I think as well, Ben, I think this month it's being tested out within Hollywood Studios of R2-D2 sort of droid testing. Hopefully that's coming soon.
We saw R2-D2 when we were in the gift shop in Galaxy's Edge. I can't remember the name of it, and he was roaming around. We could see the being controlled by the cast member, but it was great interaction, just sort of roaming around the store.
Wow.
It can't be that different from Trash, really, can it?
Push.
Push even.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Push.
Push talking Trash Cat. Okay. The technology can't be that different.
No, it's got to be quite similar, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting how it would interact with as technology has moved on since Push was at Magic Kingdom. Because I'm trying to remember, it's been a few years since it sort of was retired.
He's still at Disneyland Paris sometimes.
Oh, okay.
We've seen Push.
In studios, yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's how much technology has moved on and how much can droids eventually interact with each other. So
And
it
how
might
safe
be-
is that without little Johnny tripping up and falling over and trying to sue R2-D2?
Yeah. I think that's probably the reason I haven't used BB-8.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Quite small or quite easy. But yeah. So I think it's my turn
Your
now.
turn.
So let's start with the worst. And we've said about Chewie, but I'm going to say Darth Vader in Hollywood Studios. And it's not the meet and greet itself with Darth Vader. It was the automatic photo that you're not sure where to look. You've got a cast member that offers to use your phone instead of the automatic cameras, which they do, but they will turn out blurry because apparently a cast member doesn't know how to press sort of focus. Then you sort of rush through it, you sort of see Darth Vader, out the door you go to tap your band to see your photo. And it felt rushed, it just didn't feel right. I really wish Disney would just employ more photo pass photographers and just scrap the idea of having automatic, because it's just not going to work.
I agree with that, Ben.
I like the automatic ones that they are doing. Well, it's not automatic. The sort of shots they're doing from Galaxy's Edge and Magic Kingdom, where the photos zoom in on you. That's great technology, and I think that's what it should be used for. But I don't think a meet and greet needs you to walk into a room, you talk to a character, you have 1 or 2 photos taken. We had quite a few photos taken, but only one of them turned out decent. And we were both looking in different directions as well.
And I think as well, I think some of the best photos that you get taken are from a photographer who reads the situation and actually manages to capture just a little moment, either with certainly for us, some of the kids' pictures we've ever had have just captured just a moment in time, and it's been brilliant. But that's down to the photographer, and you can't capture that when it's just an automatic.
No, not at all.
I think it works in certain circumstances. The photo op in is it Gringotts or is it Gringotts?
Yeah.
The photo op in Gringotts, which gives you a background added to your photo, that's an automatic picture. But that works really well. But when it's an interaction, I think you do need the sensitivity of an actual person.
Yeah.
Because when we did Darth Vader in Disneyland Paris, it was terrific. Darth Vader was good, and the photographer got some great shots.
I've got probably a few for my best. It's really difficult to choose. So I'm going to go with Sorcerer Mickey. We went for our anniversary. It's our 5th wedding anniversary. And when we sort of went in, we were just not sure what to expect. We've seen Sorcerer Mickey before, but as soon as we got there, he noticed our anniversary badges. And as soon as he saw that, he sort of gestured, have we got like an autograph book? Because he wanted to try and officiate a ceremony for us there and then. And it was just brilliant. It was great interaction. We just couldn't stop laughing throughout the whole thing. But to go along with that meet and greet, the only other one I'd mention was Rafiki and Simone. I wore my T-shirt which says "I'm surrounded by idiots," and it was just the interaction between sort of Rafiki sort of trying to run away and hide. It was brilliant.
I think it was the picture of Scar on your T-shirt that had Timon running away.
Yeah, that's true. So yeah, I will put a photo of that in the show notes.
Oh, cool.
That sounds good. I love Rafiki. Like, I love meeting him over at the conservation station. He's always a good meet and greeting.
It's the first time we met Rafiki and Timon this year.
Right. We had a great time with Daisy in Pete's Silly Sideshow. Daisy with the crystal ball.
Oh, yes.
Yes. We asked her could she see if Donald was ever going to marry her. And she went over to Donald and they put a ring on it sign.
Yeah.
And who was it in Disneyland Paris? The cat.
Oh, Marie. Yeah, she was great.
Marie, between guests, will play with the baubles on the Christmas tree.
Yeah, like a cat.
Like
trying to swat them.
That's brilliant, yeah.
Yeah, really cute.
Really good.
I think that's the thing with a lot of meet and greets. It's what you put into it as well.
Yeah.
So it's if you give something a character can react to,
yeah,
it just makes the sort of whole experience even better. Thank you, everyone. There are some really great must-do meet and greets. We'd love to hear from our listeners. Do you agree with our choices? And do you have any stories about your special character meets? You can find us on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram at GB Mickey Waffle. We're also on the DIB forums in the podcast section. The full web address is www.thedib.co.uk, or you can email us at themickeywaffle@gmail.com.
So if you're like all of us wafflers, you might get a little bit of a touch of the Disney blues when you return home from your holiday. And it's always nice to have something to remind you of your holiday and take you back to those lovely memories. So after a recent discussion with all the wafflers, we've all realised that we shop from the same online store. And that store is Maple and Whiskey on Etsy. And what Maple and Whiskey do is they let you take a little bit of those memories home with you in the form of candles, room sprays and diffusers, all inspired by those magical Disney moments. For example, I've currently got a reed diffuser next to me in our kitchen called Contemporary, which takes me right back to that lovely hotel with the monorail going through the centre. I've recently had one called the Grand, which takes me right into that moment when you walk into that magnificent lobby with the birdcage. Some other favourites include Banshee's Flight, which would take you right back to a lovely cruise in the skies over Pandora, or Butterbeer, if you want that little bit of a universal hit. And what Maple and Whiskey have done is they've given a little gift to all of our listeners in the form of a 10% discount on purchases off their store. So if you'd like to have a look at their store and take a little bit of Disney into your very own home, want to enter the code GBMW10 on the Maple and Whiskey store on Etsy.
For most of us, a trip to Walt Disney World is a once-in-a-lifetime trip, which you spend a lot of time, and also money, planning. From hotel reservations to advanced dining reservations to fast passes. With so much to consider, we thought we'd share some of our mistakes so you can avoid them on your trip. So I'll start with mine. And the thing is, don't go to the outlet on a weekend. Just don't do it. You hear this great thing about the Disney character warehouse. It's brilliant if you go on a weekday. But if you go on a weekend, be prepared for a 2-hour queue just to get in. And then you realise there's nothing in there once you've waited. Has anyone else visited outlets at the weekend and regretted it? No.
Throw the outlets all together.
What's worse is that wasn't even on our first trip. It wasn't even on our second trip. It was on our last trip.
Easy mistake.
We've all done it.
Yeah, it's one of those things, you plan everything else and you think, I'll just put a shopping day in somewhere. And you sort of focus on booking your fast passes, booking everything else, and that you focus on the parks. Everything else you hope sort of slots in.
Yeah.
Maybe we should have just had a pool day that day.
Checked what day of the week it was.
Who wants to go next?
I'll go next. Mine is basically the mistake that every rookie makes, and that is not planning. The first time we went to Disneyland Paris, DLP was our first Disney park, and it was the one we made all our mistakes in. And the first mistake we made, we went for a day and we just turned up at the gate and went in. The long queues we stood in, the bad food we ate, the times we waited around for things, it was just horrendous. Then after joining the DIB, we learned all the things that you really need, like fast passes. We didn't even know about fast passes when we went in. So the best thing to do if you're going on a Disney holiday is do your research and plan.
Completely agree. Yeah, we did our first trip without planning. We bought all the tickets for like every park, and we didn't do them all.
That's how many people I see not planning their holiday, going, we'll just rock up. We won't make fast passes. We'll just see what's available. Like, just making no plan at all, and it gives me absolute anxiety. Like, do not go to Walt Disney World or Orlando without planning.
Yeah. You don't have to do a full plan. You can just do an outline. Just sort of, if we'd thought about it, 14 days, were we really going to do all the Disney parks, water parks, Universal, Busch Gardens, SeaWorld, everything, and then have even time to relax?
I mean, I think for Disneyland Paris, you don't need a detailed plan in the same way that you do for Orlando, but you need to know which rides get the long queues, which fast passes you ought to get.
What food you want, that's available, and
it doesn't have to be a rigid plan. It doesn't have to be something you have to stick to a certain degree. Just know what days you think you're going to do what. If you think you're going to Disney, book some fast passes. You can cancel them if you need to. If you want to change your plans last minute, change your plans last minute, but have some sort of.
Yep.
I completely agree with everything that's been said, and I think it's a really good tip. But I think it's there's something kind of like beautiful and pure the way you've experienced that first visit. Nothing's been spoiled, no surprises given away. You haven't had to stress about anything. You haven't had to get up at 6 a.m. or whatever time 60 days in advance, and you've just gone. And I think that's a really lovely way you've experienced your first trip, apart from the queuing and apart from the terrible food. But in this day and age, it's almost like it's just this almost opposite way to experience it than most people are. And you've had that. You wouldn't do it again that way, but I think that was nice as your first little experience.
Well, yes and no.
Did they use that trip to its full potential? Did they get everything out of it that they put into it, money wise?
Well, it put Jill off for a while.
Yeah. It was, I have to say, we were actually in Paris at the time. We hadn't actually travelled from the UK for one day. But we got there sort of 10 o'clock opening time. We were there till close. Being the summer, it closed about midnight. So it was a very long day. A lot of it was very hot. A lot of it was chucking it down with rain as well. We just were very, very tired. And I, by the end of the day, felt, well, I saw some good stuff and I really enjoyed some of it, but I kind of felt it was a one and done. And it wasn't until a couple of years later that we stayed on site and went for a couple of days that I actually really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Our lack of planning for our first trip meant that we felt we had to go back so that we could experience more of it because we felt like we'd missed too much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
Lloyd, I understand what you're saying, and you are definitely right. But I think if anybody asked me, I would say don't do it that way at all.
Yeah, my comments basically attached to this wonderful memory of 30 years ago or something when I went, and you could kind of get away with not doing it, and it's all brand new. These days, the parks are getting busier and busier and busier and busier every single year. You can't get away with not planning. If you don't plan, you'll go in the park and you could even do 3 rides, in a day, maybe 4 if you're lucky of the top ones, and that's not value for money, as Sammy said, and it's not an experience, is it? So you're absolutely right. Planning is a must. It's an absolute must do for the Disney parks these days.
I think you would get some stuff done in the parks if you were to get there early.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things. It's so easy for people who haven't been before. They just sort of think, oh, we're on holiday, so I'll get up about 10 o'clock, go and get some breakfast, get to the park for midday and wonder why, everything's like 60, 70 to 120-minute queues, especially if you are going during the summer months.
We were talking about Tokyo, and it's not unknown for Tokyo to have 3-hour waits at the weekend regularly.
Yeah.
So you really need to plan.
Please say that's not just for Small World.
No, that's 4 hours.
Oh no, that's okay. I'll skip that one.
No, you haven't ridden that one yet, so it's going to be.
No, that's okay. We seem to every one we go on we break so far.
Yeah.
We try.
The Florida one.
No.
Was it?
That's
I think this fits in absolutely brilliant with the rookie mistakes that I've got as well, because I think we've covered a little bit of it, but certainly my rookie mistake is wasting money on having too many park tickets and simply trying to get too much done within one holiday.
Yeah, definitely.
It took us about 3 trips to learn that lesson, and actually once we actually went more slowly, we actually began to notice a lot more of the detail.
Yeah.
Just at Disney, but also at Universal.
Yep.
And when you go that little bit slower, it's as if the magic comes to meet you and things happen. And you certainly, when you come home, you don't feel as if you need another holiday to get over it all.
Definitely. So it's a good point that in terms of cost as well, John, reading on the Dib or speaking to people who are trying to do this once in a lifetime, they've booked their Disney stay. They might be on site for 2 or 3 weeks. They've got the 2 or 3 weeks Disney tickets. They're then spending money because they want to go for more than a couple of days to Universal on 7-day Universal tickets. To get front of line, they're then spending 2 or 3 nights additional accommodation when they've already got a hotel room on Disney to buy one of the deluxe, to have a room in one of the deluxe resorts at Universal for 3 nights. You add all that together, it's pretty much the cost of a. You could do a 2-week holiday at Disney and a 1-week holiday at Universal on separate occasions for the same amount. And you've got 2 holidays out of it.
That's a great point, Lloyd. And I think as well, I think when you initially go for the first time, and it is that quite often that bucket list, we're going to Walt Disney World for the first and the only time, we're never going again, and you make that mistake. And what you've really got to understand, it's bigger than going to any theme park in the UK. It takes an awful lot of time. If you go during the summer, obviously the heat can take a lot out of your day as well. And to be honest, if you do start to look at it and segment little parts of it, you could actually get 2 trips for the price of one in some respects, couldn't you?
I think you need time to stop and proverbially smell the roses, don't you? You know, there's these wonderful. If you think of Epcot just in isolation, there's these wonderful little festivals put on, and you're rushing around, Soaring, Test Track, Frozen. When look at these wonderful topiary displays, or go and enjoy the food, or just sit on a bench and just sit there for half an hour rather than thinking this is half an hour I need to be getting on a ride because I'm going to Universal tomorrow and then I've got SeaWorld on Friday and then we're doing Legoland on Saturday, and it's like, right, let's just do this sensibly.
From our experiences, what's actually happened is once we've gone more slowly at it and actually, like you say, taking time to smell the roses, we've ended up with cast members coming up to speak to us, which has led to the boys doing some absolutely incredible things just purely by chance, and people are actually accepting that you are, just for want of a better thing, people watching and just absorbing what the magic's all about. And it's a lovely thing to be able to do. And I would say that I would recommend that to anyone. And it is very difficult on your first couple of trips because you honestly don't know that you're going to return. And you probably, like we certainly went at it hell for leather the first 3 trips, and we came back, and it doesn't linger as long in the memory, and the slower you go, you do really pick up some of the magic.
Yeah. Also, some of the resorts, they're lovely to stay in, especially all the Disney ones, and they've all got their own sort of special thing. So it'd be nice. We put a day in all of our trips to just resort hop. We'll go around, try a different restaurant, just spend some time, look at different pools. Just there's so much there.
Yeah, we've had a couple of stays in recent years because the boys are very little, where we've only done 1, maybe 2 or 3 park days in the whole holiday, and we've actually really just enjoyed our Disney resort. We're staying on site. We've been lucky enough to get DVC points in previous few years, and we've stayed at Animal Kingdom Lodge. And just rather than spending morning till night in the parks, we've actually been able to spend a whole day just relaxing around the resort, enjoying what it's got to offer, and actually, appreciating it and getting value for money. It's a lot of money to stay on site on Disney, and the resorts are amazing. And if you're at the parks day in, day out, that money's just gone in a puff of smoke. You might as well have stayed at the Econo Lodge,
Absolutely.
And seen the money somewhere else.
Yeah, there's lots happening, isn't there, in the actual resorts themselves that don't cost any money.
Yeah.
And all sorts of things, films, quizzes.
Some of them have hidden Mickey hunts and all sorts of stuff. Yeah.
If you go around Christmas, you've got things like the gingerbread houses.
Yeah.
Just go around and see the Christmas trees.
Oh yeah.
It's a Wilderness Lodge, the big RVs and the campsite where they put all the Christmas decks. Fort Wilderness, sorry, yeah.
Fort Wilderness, yeah.
Rent a golf buggy and go around there.
Those, apparently that's great, yeah.
We actually ended up in Contemporary one day in November, and it was the day when the gingerbread sculpture was just being finished off. The chef was due to sign special limited edition pins the next day. But we actually got talking to him because he was there, and he signed one for us.
The day before, he was supposed to be signing them.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. It's little moments like that, isn't it?
Yeah,
Taking the time to talk to people and for them to talk to you too.
Everyone wants that magical Disney trip, and sometimes everyone's too focused trying to fit everything into 14 days.
Yeah.
Maybe do you want to do SeaWorld this trip, or do you make another trip? And it's with ticket prices getting more and more expensive. It's one of those things. Some people now will have 2 trips, or they might alternate. Do one time they do Disney, the next time they do Universal, so they can then dedicate times to those parks.
Yeah.
John, you're going to be horrified by my upcoming trip in May. We're doing Disney, Universal, SeaWorld, Shark, and Kensington Space Centre.
Fantastic, Sammy.
Your YouTube channel must be doing too well.
Is that all in a week?
You'll be wearing a Gucci Mickey jumper next.
This is my 11th time. To be fair, I have done it the slow way, and I totally get what you're saying. The slow way is good. I like it both ways. Sometimes I like the slow way. Sometimes I like it.
It's Becca who's making me laugh.
Yeah, same here. I don't know what Becca's on tonight, I tell you. Normally Claire giggling at the smutty stuff and that set me off. You tonight.
Sorry, my brain just went straight to the gutter there, Sammy.
As soon as I heard the giggle, mine went to the gutter.
It was when you talked about Spider-Man earlier.
I thought I was very well behaved when it came to Spider-Man.
You were.
Glad we were on mute.
Yeah, did you see the Tim Tracker when he did the run?
In
Oh,
Universal.
what, the walk?
Universal.
And he said, I'm going to show you the backside of Spider-Man.
We all got Sammy.
Oh, thanks, guys. I like it. Yes. So yeah, I know what you mean by I do enjoy doing it, the quiet way and taking it at a pace, and I also enjoy doing everything in the one trip. So
Yeah.
I enjoy.
And I think that's a good point as well, Sammy, because I don't think any of us here would ever turn around to anybody and say, "Oh, your trip must be done in a certain way."
100%.
Every trip's different. Everybody's family are different, and actually, some people just have different ways that they want to go on their holiday. And I think it's in more ways these rookie mistakes are just letting people have that little bit of knowledge as to maybe where we've messed up in the past and possibly where we've actually learned a couple of little lessons along the way.
So leading on to my rookie mistake, do your ESTAs. Do your ESTAs in plenty of time. Do not leave it till the month before. Do not leave it till 2 weeks before. Do not leave it till the day before. It costs a tenner, £10 or something like that. It's $14, so whatever the exchange rate is, but it's so cheap and it saves you so much worry and so much bother. So if you don't know what an ESTA is, it's a visa, electronic visa that gets you into the US. It's all done online. It's very cheap, and you need one to get on the plane to go to America. So if you don't have it or something messes up, you're not going to America. We see it a lot on the dib. People, worrying about ESTAs and things happening. So 99% of the time, everything's fine. Everything goes through. It gets authorized, and there's no bother. But there are some times where the system messes up. So I personally check my ESTA at least once a month, maybe once every 2 months. But I do check it regularly to make sure it's still there. I'm still getting on the plane. But yeah, definitely don't leave your ESTA until the last minute. I would advise at least 5 or 6 months before your holiday.
I'll also make sure that you don't turn up to the airport, because you used to be able to do it within like an instant response or sort of like 10 minutes. But now it's a minimum of 72 hours they recommend. So
they recommend it can still be authorized straight away.
We did ask a couple of weeks ago and it took an hour. But
yeah, exactly. It still can happen, but do not rely on that. Do not rely on that.
And include your middle name as well.
Yes.
And also make sure you go through the official site, because if you just Google ESTA, you will probably get loads of sites which will charge you a lot more for nothing extra at all. Yeah.
I think what we
average
might
charge
do
for something else to do is about £100. People seem to pay for one ESTA.
Yeah.
ESTA should only cost you $14. That's how much the current ESTA is. If you guys are on the DIB, they have links to it there. But
I'll put it on the show notes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Ben will link it.
Just don't start paying silly money for it, because actually there are really dubious companies out there that will rip you off.
And it does last for 2 years, and you can travel up to that day that it expires. So it's only on entry. So if it finishes on 1st of January, you can go, as long as you travel to the US on that day. It doesn't matter when it expires, you can still travel.
Pay with your Halifax Clarity, so you don't get charged foreign currency fees for doing it.
Or equivalent.
Yeah.
Other currency-free cards are available.
We have a story about ESTAs, don't we?
Yeah, I was just thinking of that.
Yeah. Well, John.
Well, my first ESTA, we had to do about 2 days before we went, because we were going for our honeymoon, and the name on my passport and my passport itself wasn't valid until 2 days before we went.
Until the day we got married.
because I didn't have a passport at that point, and I was like, I'm changing my name. I'm not getting a passport in my maiden name just to change it 6 months down the line and spend another 80 quid. So I got my first passport in my married name and had to wait until 2 days before we flew to get my ESTA.
So the night before the wedding, there was me on the MacBook just typing away, thinking, I really hope this ESTA goes through, as it says 72 hours for it to come back. Within minutes, it was there.
Thankfully.
Thankfully.
This was
That's good
6.5 years ago.
Good point to note. If you have an ESTA, but you get another passport, you have to do another ESTA.
Yeah.
It's linked to it, so yeah, you need a new one.
What if you're about to get married then, the night before, Ben, and it came back that this woman is wanted by the Department of Homeland Security?
I would have been going to Florida.
So I married an axe murderer-esque crimes behind her.
Yeah, that's the only thing. So that would have been an interesting conversation with the immigration officer.
Thankfully, it was all fine.
I'd have been going on my honeymoon alone.
Oh.
He would have as well.
Right. Well,
someone else would have to be treated to your ice cream date.
I still haven't had that ice cream date yet.
Oh.
8 trips.
What, Ample Hills Creamery?
Yeah.
We have been there before.
True.
Right, my rookie mistake. I dithered about which one to choose. How about believing everybody on the dib when they said that Florida was always hot? And we ended up there December 2010 in -2 temperatures and big winter coats. Should it be going to see the Holy Land experience at all? That's another story for another podcast, I think. Yeah, the one I decided on was our last day of our first trip, and it was deciding to do Virgin check-in at what was then Downtown Disney, now Disney Springs. Now, this is something that works for a lot of people. If it works for you, great, I'm not knocking it. However, for us, on site, no car, it was not the right thing to do. What the check-in is basically you can take your luggage and check in there and leave your luggage at the Virgin desk at Disney Springs instead of having to wait till you get to the airport. And then you can go off with no luggage and spend the rest of your day how you want. Trouble is, you can't take luggage on the Disney buses. So we had to start the day, which, by the way, had torrential rain, by getting a taxi where we waited in line to check in at Disney Springs, or Downtown Disney, and then realising that our passports and our paperwork were in our carry-on case, which was back at Port Orleans. Oops. Fortunately, the members of staff were really, really nice, and they let us check in, and we'd actually checked in online. We'd done online check-in the night before, so they could look us up. It was all fine. They said, yeah, fine, drop your bags. However, what do we do then? By then, we had also heard from Virgin that our plane was probably going to be about 5 or 6 hours delayed because of snow. Now, we'd had a 5-hour delay because of snow at Gatwick going out, and it looked like we were going to get similar delays coming back. So we were really thrown then. We were kind of hanging around, waiting for phone calls, trying to phone this information line they'd given us, not getting through. And basically, we ended up wasting the day going back and forth between Port Orleans and Downtown Disney and not really getting that much enjoyment out of the last day. So on our second trip, we decided, the heck with that. We are going to go to Bell Services on our last day and just leave our luggage with them. So we had our breakfast, we left our luggage with Bell Services. We didn't know this, but apparently Bell Services will actually come to your room and take your luggage for you if you want. We didn't know that. But we went and had breakfast. We were at Magic Kingdom in time for the opening ceremony, when they still had a proper opening ceremony with the train. And we had a wonderful morning, nice lunch, and then left Magic Kingdom, went back to Saratoga Springs, relaxed and had a drink and waited for the Magic Express to take us back to the airport. Much easier.
I agree with you. If you're staying on site at Disney, I don't think it's necessarily something that needs to be used. Bell services is nice and secure, usually manned, and comfortable leaving luggage there.
Yeah.
If you're off site, we've used it once off site and once not off site. And depending on which hotel you're staying in, sometimes I wouldn't necessarily feel comfortable leaving my luggage in their little hold room. I won't name the hotel, but it was unmanned and unlocked.
Very cute.
So yeah, it's going to depend a lot on your circumstances, your hotel, whether you've got a car as well is another big one.
I mean, if we'd had a car, it might have been different, but yeah. For us, it just wasn't worth it, and it was a waste of a day.
It depends on what you want to do on your last day. That's always the thing, isn't it? Because it depends what time your flight is, depends on whether it's going to work well for you.
Well, that was the other thing, of course, was that in the end we rushed to get our transfer to the airport, and we rushed through security, and then when we got to the little lounge area, we discovered that our flight was going to be 6 hours late.
Ooh.
So we had 6 hours with nowhere to sit, nothing open apart from one tiny little gift shop and a Starbucks, and for about an hour Outback Steakhouse. So yeah, 6 hours of sitting in a very bored state. So yeah, that wasn't the best last day.
So my rookie mistake is not eating and drinking enough when you're going around the parks. Getting so busy that you end up getting dehydrated because you've forgotten to drink, and then you have a funny 5 minutes, or in my case 10 or 15 minutes, and you have to just stop everything. You've got to remember that normally it's hot in Florida, so that doesn't help. So you've got to keep your sugar levels, your salt levels, your water levels all up. You're going to have to go and sit through the Hall of Presidents.
No, nothing is worth
The
that.
only time we've ever done it.
Yeah.
All for the AC.
Yeah.
No, yeah, I totally agree. Like, I think because of the heat as well, we feel like we don't want to drink as well. There's something about the heat that you don't feel like drinking, but you're right, you have to keep hydrated. And a good hack with that is like get someone like Lloyd to go to the shops for you and a 12 pack of water so that you don't have to keep buying the expensive.
I've got an even better hack for you, Sammy. Go up to any of the quick service locations at Disney and they'll give you free iced water.
Yeah, I do take advantage of the free ice water, but I do like to take a bottle of water with me as well.
Yeah, same.
So in case I need a water and like I can't be bothered with the faff of going to find some ice water.
Just
So
in case you're not in the park or just.
Or you're not
Yeah,
for a quick service location.
Places have jugs of ice water as well, don't they? I think Starbucks do, don't they?
Also,
Just help yourself. Yeah.
you don't realise how much walking you end up doing on a Disney holiday. I have to admit, when I look back of previous trips, we've had days when we've done over 30,000 steps. Would never do that when we're at home, but
And you drink less
and you drink
than you would when you're at home.
We tend to always have our rapid fill mugs with us because if we have a drink on the way out, they'll go in the bag. And then if we're in Magic Kingdom, middle of the day, wanting a bit of respite, nip over to Contemporary, join the AC, get a little drink in your resort cup because you can use them in any resorts. Same for Epcot. Hollywood Studios, obviously, in Animal Kingdom, a bit more difficult, but the parks are right next to resorts. It's really easy. Just nip out, spend half an hour, get something to eat, and a free drink because you've paid for your rapid fill cup already.
Well, Hollywood Studios be easier now because you've got the either the Skyliner or the 10-minute walk to the boardwalk.
we're not allowed to talk about the Skyliner.
Do you know what, Sam? I was
Why
watching
keep
some
promoting?
YouTube videos of it. I like the look of it. Looks quite nice. It's very 70s.
The worst water, not probably the nicest water, but the most expensive water is the one in the nice hotels in Universal, which is from Fiji.
Yeah.
And is $9 a pop.
And it's in your room, just asking you to drink it.
Yeah.
And then you open the top and then look down and realise there's a fee and go, can I get away with screwing this back on and trying to glue the little bit that falls off the cap back together with it?
Like, I don't know if this is like a controversial opinion, but I despise the Sani water that they sell in the park. I don't like it.
I don't think we've only had it a couple of times. Normally we've done like a garden grocer and had like
Publix
or Publix
well,
or just
Walgreens strip.
and just got a crate of water.
That's because it's not. That's because it's not spring water or filtered water. It's basically water from the water table that they add minerals to. So it's kind of like drinking tap water with extra minerals.
For about
Like that
$5.
episode of Only Fools and Horses.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not a big Dasani water fan, so I'm happy to either take the free ice water or take bottles of malt water.
Would you buy the one from Galaxy's Edge though, because it's got the nice new pattern on it?
Obviously, I'm gonna have to buy that bit. I might not drink it, but I'm buying it for Instagram.
If you
Thermal
want
detonator ones look the best. The Coke ones, they look awesome.
Oh, they're
So I
brilliant.
have to get one of those as well. I don't really drink fizzy juice, so like all I really drink is water. But I do like a wee Diet Coke every now and again. So they've got a Diet Coke one.
Coke,
Yeah, they have. Yeah.
That's right.
We did pick one up.
But we didn't have room to bring it back.
Oh.
Had to leave it behind.
Yeah.
the best water to get will cost you one snack credit on the dining plan, but that is the Voss water in Norway.
I might have to try. I've heard of like my favorite waters are like, this is so, what a weird tangent talking about waters, but I love a spring water. Spring water is my fave.
I've been to Voss, Peter.
All right, okay.
Just brought back memories of going there. Went skiing there when I was in school.
Yeah.
I can't remember the water though.
It's glacial water. It's nice, but it's expensive.
Right. I bet so.
But not $9 a pop.
No.
Well, I remember Voss in Norway being really expensive anyway.
Yeah.
So it probably was. It was probably that price there.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
Right. My rookie mistakes. Short and sweet. These two. First one is if you've got a fast pass and say you're going in first thing in the morning or it's an evening fast pass, pay attention to the standby line time. Because I remember doing it time before last with Soaring. We went in first thing, fast pass, straight in the fast pass queue. And I think the standby line was like 5-10 minutes. We've come off Soaring, it's 45 minutes. And it'll be the same for anything, really. And if we'd have just gone in the standby queue, we would have had 2 rides for this pretty much the same amount of time. So it's just because you've got a fast pass, don't necessarily use it. And then the converse of that, if you're in the standby line and you've got fast passes free, check that ride. When myself and my dad did Flight of Passage, we were in the fast pass. We actually checked on the app because we had a spare fast pass. And pretty much there were times available for Flight of Passage still. And there was about a 3-hour queue in the standby line.
Ooh.
So either these people hadn't planned appropriately or they just didn't know about My Disney Experience so they could check it on the go. But yeah, so if you're in the standby line, check if there's a fast pass. If you're in the fast pass, check what the standby line's like.
People change their plans all the time, and I have to admit,
yeah, exactly.
We've seen last-minute dining reservations for like Be Our Guest, California Grill, things that book out at 6 months, and it's the same for dining and fast pass.
And don't forget that once you've used those 3 initial fast passes, you can then book another fast pass for any park.
Yeah, exactly.
So if you've got the Park Hoppers or the UK Ultimate tickets, and you're in Magic Kingdom and there's a Flight of Passage fast pass for 2 hours time, book it.
Yeah, exactly.
And lights gone green, get your phone out, see what's available.
Yeah.
I think the most we've ever done in one day was
8.
Yeah, 8 or 9.
Magic Kingdom one day.
Right?
And
Cool.
that included doing things like 7 Dwarfs, which we did twice in one day, Space, Splash, Big Thunder.
Yeah, I think people forget. I think you're right. People, once they've done the pre-booked fast passes, they forget that they can make more and kind of monitor times on the app. So it's a really good tip.
And the other one is one that I'd forgotten about actually, and it's not really a tip, but if you're expecting a walk-on and you go to Haunted Mansion and it says the standby line is 13 minutes, it is a walk-on. Don't turn around because you think, I haven't got 13 minutes. I completely forgot about that, and someone reminded me about it the other day.
Isn't it the same for Tower of Terror?
Yeah, they're both 13 minutes. It's a great find if you get to Magic Kingdom and you've got 13 minutes on the board for Haunted Mansion, or in the studios and it's 13 minutes for Tower of Terror.
It's good, that, because you could get people just thinking, I've only got, I thought it was just walk on, walk off. So-and-so's waiting for me at the other end of the park, and turn around.
Thank you, everyone. I'm going to make sure not to repeat these mistakes on our next trip. As we come towards the end of the show, it's now time to hear from our listeners about what they're celebrating this month. Yep, it's the Mickey Mentions.
I've got a Mickey mention for a waffler, Sammy. Hi, Sammy. Sammy's birthday is on the 5th of March. Well, congratulations. Happy birthday. And as they say over here in Wales,
Penblwydd hapus.
Penblwydd hapus.
And I've got another Mickey mention for another waffler, because all the best people are born in March. Yeah. So we say happy birthday to Peter, who his birthday is on the 7th of March.
Well, I've got one as well. Our very own waffler Lloyd will be heading back to the land of the mouse on his birthday in March. He'll be staying for 10 days this time, with a night on site at Universal, followed by 9 nights at Animal Kingdom Lodge. Oh, lovely. There may be a cheeky after-hours party and a day at Blizzard Beach. Other than that, park free, which gives plenty of time to enjoy the resort and all the foodie treats it has to offer. Zebra domes! Woo! There is one special visit planned to Beaches and Cream to celebrate Beau's second birthday in style on the 24th with a kitchen sink. He's never going to eat all that.
Yeah, I was going to say.
2 years old? Whoa, that's a challenge.
I'm sure he'll make a good go of it too.
Yeah, he will. Knowing him, he will.
That'll help.
Yeah, then Dad will need a kitchen sink or a toilet bowl.
I'm sure Brody will help as well.
We have a belated Mickey mention from Ian, who will have been to Disneyland Paris with his wife Gemma and 6-year-old Elizabeth and 2-year-old Douglas. They joined Ben and Becca for a character meal at Cafe Mickey. Also, Gemma will be celebrating her birthday on 22nd of March. Happy birthday, Gemma.
Happy birthday, Gemma.
For our last mention this month, we'd like to give a shout out to a fellow podcaster, Brandon from Kentucky. His podcast is Drinks with Brandon, and he will soon be visiting Disneyland with his wife. We hope you all have an amazing time, and if you have an upcoming holiday, birthday or anniversary, we'd love to give you a shout out on a future show. Don't forget to hit subscribe on your podcast app to have future episodes automatically downloaded when they become available. We really do enjoy doing these shows and would love to hear what you think. You can either leave a review, record a message using the Anchor app, or just send us an email to themickeywaffle@gmail.com. Until next time, waffle on!